Hi, I'm Christina Adams. This is the place where we talk about God, Christianity, and life. Right now, we're going to talk about how to grow closer to God using journaling prayer requests. Now, these could be prayer requests that you have between you and God. They could be prayer requests that you have for others, or prayer requests that people have said. A small Sunday school or small group, and then they'll just jot down what people have said. But it works to me. It seems to work best when it's in a consistent group or when it's by yourself, because that's when you can get the answers to the prayer requests. So the basic idea of it is that you would write down the prayer requests and the date and then leave space for the answer, so that when God has answered your prayer request, you can write down what the answer was and the date. What this does is it gives you a list of times when God has answered your prayer requests, and when he has affected something in your life or in others' lives. It's a really neat exercise, and it's something that I had sort of stumbled into a while back. I had a friend, we were having a small Bible study, and I would bring a notebook and I would just write down whatever her prayer requests were that week. And then I did that mostly because I was afraid I'd forget, which is also a good thing. Not forgetting, but the being able to write things down so you remember them. And every week I would write down more, and then I would go back and check and say, well, how about this one? Was this one answered? And write down if it was and what the date was, or if it wasn't, I would just leave it blank and come back to it the next week. And we did this for a couple of years. And then things happened, life happened, and we drifted apart. And I put my notebook away and totally forgot about it. But then last year, or I think it was last year, the year before, I was reading a book by George Muller. And I don't know if you've heard of George Muller. He's a really neat guy. He's actually a German who was a missionary to England, and he started a bunch of orphanages. And his thought was that he wanted to show that God answered prayer. And so he was never going to go to people about the needs that his orphanage had. And what he would do is he would go in, and then when God answered, he would write down how God answered it and when. And that was all he would do. And then at the end of each year, he would send the list of all the things that he had prayed for, all the needs the orphanage had, and how God had met them to the board. Well, over the course of his life, by the end of his life, he had 50,000 prayer requests that God had answered. And of those 50,000, at least 50,000, maybe more, of those 50,000, around 30,000 had been answered that day or within the hour, which is it's like, it's mind boggling to think of those kinds of numbers. Like, how would you ever manage to do something like that? But one thing that's important to remember is that we're talking about George Muller's whole life. This is not something that he had when he first started that practice, or what he had when he was in the middle of it. It was only at the end that he had these numbers, and that he had this whole mountain of evidence, really, of God's faithfulness in taking care of them. And that's something that we tend to do, is we will look at other people and we'll think, wow, like I could never become that. But the thing is that we're comparing us now with them at their last moments. And what we need to do is realize that that is what we could do if we started doing small things now. If we started recording our prayer requests now, by the end of our life, we could very well have that much or more. I mean, if you think about it, how many times do you pray a day? Just small prayers for, traffic, the ambulance that just went by, your friend, anything that you just happen to be thinking of. How many of those types of prayers have you prayed already? And how many of those has God answered? Which then goes back to my reason why journaling your prayer requests is so important, because so many of the prayers that I've had in my life, I've prayed, God answered them. And maybe in the moment I was thankful. Hopefully I was. But at those answers come, and then it's easy to forget, especially a week later or a year later, your prayer seemed at the time. And so if you have a journal of it, then it gives you, it reminds you of the things that God has done in the past. And God has done so much in all of our lives in the past that if we just have a journal, it probably would only record a portion of it anyway. But the more that we do, the more that we'll see how much God has done. So I bring all this up because I end up finding my friend's the notebook that I'd used for my friend, and over the years I was just looking at it because it didn't really seem like it was that much. It was just once a week, and I would jot down 3 things, and it would only take like 15 minutes, maybe more, maybe less, depending on how many rabbit trails we went down. But I looked at them, and over the years, we had I had recorded over 316 prayer requests that God had answered for just her in her life, and or praises that were neat things that God had done in her life. And that was just really neat to be able to see that even though I wasn't even trying to necessarily have a number, and definitely wasn't as big as George Mueller's, but it was just neat to see that even something small like that, for me to be able to say, I have seen God do that much in my life when I wasn't really even paying attention, or at least not really, really detailedly thinking about it. So I just thought that was really neat. And if you have ever done something like this, or if you have a different way of recording what God has done in your life, I would really enjoy hearing about it. If you could leave me a comment and let me know. Also, if you have never tried it and you would like to, there's a link to my blog, and on my blog I have if you enter your email address and click submit, I will send you it's a free copy of my step-by-step 4-week plan to trusting God. In this plan, what I do is I give small steps for where you interact with God, you're paying attention to what God's doing, and then you just record it in some way. And it's not that this way works the best, or that it's the most the only way to do things. There's a whole bunch of things that you can go off in your own direction. Whatever works best for you is great. But this is just if you don't have an idea of what you want to do and you want to figure something out, or you want to at least have somewhere to start. This is something that will give you, within 4 weeks, you will be able to start seeing things that God is doing, or at least to have some kind of record of the things that God is doing. And it's really neat to be able to see how God is working in your life. So I will hopefully talk to you later, and I look forward to seeing your comments. God bless.